feel like I'm in a therapy session. Should I lay down?
You should lay down. Get comfortable.
So, it all started in the 8th grade when my mom wouldn't get me a blue razor.
Ugh, I'm so sorry. That sounds awful.
Yeah, right?
So bad.
Welcome to Millennial Made. My name is Rod, and I'm very excited for today's guest. I have with me one of my internet friends I just met in real life, Dr. Courtney Tracy, the Truth Doctor. Where did you get that name, Truth Doctor?
Well, I thought about what's the opposite of bullshit, right? Which is like what none of us really want to live our lives by. And it's the truth. And so my job, calling myself the Truth Doctor, is like, can I say the truth about myself and my life? And can that encourage other people to tell the truth about themselves and their lives? And then if we lived in a more truthful world, maybe we could actually start to heal. So the Truth Doctor.
And that is all about that's what that's all about, right? Is learning to heal. I feel like especially this like millennial generation, we're just on a constant journey to like heal from past trauma, which I feel like we have a lot of. But so you create content on the internet.
I do.
As well as being a practicing therapist.
Right.
Yep. Great. How's that been? Have your clients like seen your TikToks?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's really nice actually. And I get a lot of questions from other like mental health professionals, like how do I handle that? And, I really just say like, I'm teaching my clients how to have conversations with people that know personal stuff about them. Like one of the biggest issues with being vulnerable is what are people going to do with my stories and my information once they know? And human beings can be very malicious, but when they're not, when the intentions are pure and they feel like they can like tell the truth about themselves too, and see how it's done. Like, how do I set boundaries? How do I like share my personal information without letting other people change that narrative? It helps them, I think, to see that I'm not afraid to share my mental health issues, and so they shouldn't be either.
I think that's the craziest thing about the internet is there's never one thought that I have that isn't shown somewhere on the internet.
Yes.
With all the different social platforms that I consume, I'm like, oh well, I thought I was alone in that. Which we can go into in a little bit. But I did want to ask, so you show a lot about your life on social media, which is I think really important as well because it makes you relatable and it makes you, not just this like person that, especially with therapists, I think that's the issue that people have with therapists is they view them as like almost not people.
Oh
Like
yeah.
they're like I'm trying to think of the word, like just an entity that like
a blank slate.
Exactly.
We're taught that in school. It's really messed up.
Are you taught that you should be a blank slate?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We're taught like, do not like have a personality, don't have tattoos, like wear a cardigan. Like,
your tattoos look good. I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, don't let anybody know like that you have like had issues, which is ridiculous because we're saying, come in and talk to us about your issues.
That's so crazy. Oh my goodness. My friend Nadia, who's on TikTok as well.
Yeah, I know her.
Yeah, she's has a lot of good content. But she, I think, put something that it always bums me out when I can't be friends with my clients. Is that a real thought that goes through your head as well?
Totally. And the thing is it's because even like clients come into the therapy space and feel comfortable like, oh, wow, I can actually like be myself here. And for therapists, it's like, wow, there's a human being that's actually being themselves in front of me. Like as therapists, we just see so many people going around like putting on masks because society expects them to and like pretending that they're people that they're not and not who they really are. And so it's refreshing also for therapists to be like, oh, wow, just like the truth, like just two honest humans hanging out, trying to get better.
And not everyone's cookie cutter, which is like the whole point of therapy, right? So it's probably good to have people in the space that are different.
Yeah.
I think for me, one of the biggest holdups I have when starting it with a new therapist, which is it's normal to have multiple therapists, right? Like throughout your life, it's like, I think that's the biggest thing is people are like, why'd you get a new therapist? What happened to your last one? I'm like, we just, kind of graduated from each other.
Yeah. And different therapists do different things and you're not going to be dealing with the same issues throughout your whole life, hopefully.
Yeah. Like you go through like, I've been in couples therapy, I've had, but I found one-on-one therapy with that therapist wasn't as helpful and then, graduated to a different therapist. One question I had though is this career path something you've wanted to do your entire life?
Unavoidably
Mhm.
and without a choice. It feels like
Sure. Why do you say that?
just, when I was growing up, I was exposed to a lot of pain,
Mhm.
emotional,
Oh,
physical, interpersonal, and learned very quickly that the avoidance of pain led to suffering. And how can I
put that on
avoid
a
it?
t-shirt.
And
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
I know, right? Just tattooed on the inside of my
Mhm.
eyelids, please. And I had no choice but to try to find answers to the questions that I had growing up about why my parents were around or not around and why there was so much substance use and mental illness in my family. So I spent like 12 years after high school studying all of this clinical stuff to try to find the answers. And once I found them, I realized how much easier it was to get better and that everybody needs those answers. And so, how can I facilitate people living lives more happily
Mhm.
earlier than I did? Because I'm still working on it. And I
Mhm.
have 12 years of education and like 31 years of suffering. You'd
Mm.
think I'd like be able to figure it out by now.
So you're 31 as well.
Yeah.
Same with me. It's so funny because all these questions are not the questions I prepared you with, but I feel like these are a really good conversation. So with you're talking about, like the things you've learned in your education, what was the most surprising thing, as you were going through all your different schooling that you found out not even about yourself, but just about, mental health in general or just about, people?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's like that's something that like most people may not know about.
Oh my God. Well, it's probably the topic I'm writing my book on right now. And it's
Ooh.
that about 1 out of every 20 actions, decisions, or thoughts that we have are actually conscious.
Oh my
Like
God.
we are like literal unconscious robots, and our consciousness is even a result of our unconscious. So, like, are we actually like in existence? Like, do we have free will? Do we make our own choices? And like, the answer is no.
Oh my God. That my mind is blown. So we're on autopilot, basically.
Oh, yeah, completely. Yeah.
I truly believe, and there's a lot in my life, that as I'm opening up more, and hopefully one day I'll be able to open up fully to, the internet about it. But I've put so much in my subconscious, or set so much aside that I've been able to suppress, but then it gets to like a blowing up point,
Hmm.
and then it's just not healthy. But that's so interesting that 1 out of 20, you said?
Yeah.
Oof, wow.
Like, that's wild.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So that's why I'm naming my book Your Unconscious is Showing, because whenever I'm just like walking around the world after like learning everything I've learned, everybody's actions, like it's just all because of some unconscious process that like we either don't know is actually happening or
Mhm.
that we're actively avoiding because it'd be too painful.
That usually happens when I online shop. I'll like
Yeah,
yeah, I'm
no,
like
right? Yeah.
we use the term blackout, but I truly, I'm online shopping and then I'll get a package. I'm like, what is in
Yeah.
here?
No, totally.
Yeah,
Anything to run. It's
yeah.
too difficult, you know?
Oh man. Okay, well let's get into it.
Let's do
I
it.
have quite a few questions to ask you. So first question here is um who was your first celebrity crush?
Chad Michael Murray.
Chad Michael Murray.
Oh, for
So
sure. And
he's
then I
OC.
married him, basically. Not I mean,
Oh,
okay.
I think you made a video about that,
I
didn't you?
did.
Yes, I saw
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah,
my
my
God.
husband looks just like him. The
Wow.
One Tree Hill, like, fan all the
One Tree
way.
Hill,
I've
not
watched the
OC.
whole thing 3 times in a row, all of it. Obsessed.
I get that. I've never seen it, which is so funny because I talk a lot about millennial content. I was more of like Friday
Oh
Night
my God.
Lights,
Okay, yeah.
like I did watch some of the dramas, but it was what I think maybe even for you because you're from here, it's probably One Tree Hill's no One Tree Hill
It
doesn't take
was
place
like,
here.
yeah, like the South or something.
Oh, interesting
Yeah.
because OC and Laguna Beach are
Yeah, I
here.
couldn't
Okay,
watch the OC. It
because
was
you live in
like,
OC.
oh my God, like when I'm in
Yeah,
my room, I don't want to be out in my city, basically.
sure.
And Laguna Beach was actually going to be filmed at my high school, but our principal said no.
Oh my
So it
God.
would have been like Dana Point instead of Laguna Beach.
Oh my God. Well, that sucks. So
Well,
did
I
we,
made it anyways, right?
yeah. Well, when you met your husband, you said
Yeah,
what's his name?
Max.
Max. When you met Max,
Hmm.
did you like think that you're like he looks like Chad Michael Murray? I'm gonna marry this man,
Oh,
or
yeah. I mean, I met him when I was 15. And so I
oh
had
my
like
God,
Chad sitting next to me and Chad on my TV. And like,
you won.
I won. Yeah, for
Were
sure.
your girlfriends like jealous that you were getting to marry your
Oh,
celebrity crush?
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I'm Sophia Bush and he's Chad Michael Murray. And
Hmm.
like, we're going to be together
Oh my
forever.
God, what happens if you meet Chad Michael Murray when you're with Max? Do you think Chad Michael Murray would just freak out that his doppelganger is like that?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think he'd think he looked like him. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. Okay, second question here. what was the most defining TV show for you as a kid?
Honestly, I was about to say One Tree Hill again, but I have to say it's Lizzie McGuire.
Okay,
Like
I need to hear
full
more on that.
on, you know?
Why? Why?
Like,
Like the fashion, the experience. She was very relatable
yeah.
as a like preteen because she was
Yeah.
bullied. Her friends were bullied, but then she still went through like the struggles that every girl probably went through. But even as a guy, I related to her as
Yeah.
well on certain things.
Yeah, I think it was all of that. And like she had a little brother who was like annoying, and so did I.
Yes.
And like,
And parents
yeah,
like did she have a helicopter parents or were they pretty did they let her do her thing?
they were kind of weird,
Yeah.
you
They
know?
were funky.
Yeah.
Oh my, there was just 90s Con. Did you see that? I
I
don't think
saw that.
Lizzie McGuire went, but because I follow she's so active on socials and I think it's really funny is Christy Carlson Romano from Even
Yeah, she
Stevens. Oh
is.
my God, she is just like I think I commend her because she is just fully running with like what she did. You
Oh,
know,
totally.
I feel like there's a lot of celebrities that don't do that. They're like, well, I want to create something new and I don't even want to talk about it ever again.
Yeah.
It's like buy into it. Like that's what you're known for and
Right.
that's what we love to see. But all to say it's so crazy to see like all the celebrities grown up that we grew up with.
It's so weird.
Yeah, I think like the cast of Mrs. Doubtfire
Oh my
reunited,
God.
obviously without Robin Williams, but
Yeah.
it was so insane to see just how grown up
Yeah.
they are. And we just watched this movie over and over the same hour and a half over and
Right.
over. And so we just saw them in that,
Yeah.
phase of life.
Yeah, it's so
Crazy.
weird.
Yeah. But did you like the Liz McGuire movie as well?
Oh, I loved
Okay.
it. Yeah, What Dreams Are Made Of.
Yeah.
That was everything. Everything. I was
It's
like,
making a
I'm gonna go there
resurgence.
to like the Trevi Fountain.
Mhm.
Just like that's where all
Mhm.
of like your life goals are made
Mhm.
out of.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
everything you see on TV and in the movies when you're little.
Were you a DCOM consumer? Disney Channel original movies?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Completely.
Okay, what was your favorite one?
I don't know.
Oh man.
I don't
Okay,
know.
I'll tell you mine.
Yes.
13th Year.
Oh wait, I
It's-
haven't seen
Well,
that.
That's when he turns 13 and he becomes a merman. And his mom's a mermaid.
Okay.
His dad's not.
Yeah,
And
I
he's
have not seen
adopted by
that.
this family. And then once he turned 13, whenever he touched water, he would turn into a merman.
What?
Fascinating. So fascinating.
Yes.
And so then I just remember like, this is me. It's like, 'cause I don't know. I don't know if
This
it's
is
just like,
me.
it was me not like fitting in. And
Yeah.
I was really bullied in high school and, I kind of kept to myself. So watching that, I'm like, this could be very well be, me as a person. But
Yeah.
I just thought it was really interesting. I'm like, I should not be relating to this movie this much. Yeah. Because there were other good, like Brink was another good
Oh,
one.
I loved Brink.
Okay. So
Yes.
that one.
Loved.
Yeah.
Loved.
Or what was the one where were they twin sisters or a motocross
Yeah.
where it was a brother and a sister and
Yeah.
then the sister pretends to be the brother so she can
Right.
like ride his bike or something. Yeah. Crazy. I want to be in the writer's room for DComs.
Yeah.
Like I feel like those need to make a resurgence.
They probably will eventually.
I really feel like they probably will. They might actually probably for sure will. I think one thing that I've seen on, the internet is we joke around about it a lot, especially, a lot of current events are happening now, like more than ever at once. We
Yeah.
joke about it, but how real are the generational traumas that millennials face? Like how much does that affect us today? I don't know if you're like educated to answer that or whatever, but you've gone through enough schooling. I feel like you've had a thought on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a very great question because generational trauma, obviously, even just by the name of it, has been around for generations. But millennials grew up with the internet. We grew up with being able to tell the stories of our own family upbringing and realize that we're not alone in it.
Mhm.
And like, I think that that's really important because it used to be where generational traumas would just be mainly within the household, like family secrets, like keep up with the Joneses, like nobody's going to know our
Mhm.
BS basically.
Mhm.
And that's just going to fuel and continue generational trauma. But now, even with millennials at a young age, MySpace, Tumblr, Facebook,
love
Instagram,
MySpace
like
so
me
much.
too.
Yeah.
Like when are we going to be able to put songs back on our profiles? 'Cause-
Songs on our profiles, and as toxic as it is, I love top 8. I'll say it. I loved top
Yeah.
8, ranking my friends. And they did
Totally.
one petty thing, and then I would move them off my top 8.
I was never on anybody's.
Oh, okay. I mean, I wasn't either, but I don't know if I've told this yet, but you remember how you could code things onto MySpace?
yeah.
Like there's so many
Like,
different
so
things.
cool.
Oh, I know. I felt like such like
HTML.
yeah, I was like a hacker. There was this guy that went to my high school who was just the nicest guy. Like He would be like Chad Michael Murray in Cinderella Story.
Ooh.
Which just like a football player, you know, hung out with the mean crowd, but he himself wasn't mean. He was just nice to everyone.
Yeah.
I went, my friend texted me or someone told me that I was on his top 8. So I went to look, I'm like, why am I on his top 8? And then I went to his profile and I was number 2. So weird. But obviously he wasn't on mine. So then I put him on mine. Because I'm like, I have to.
You have to.
Like, if I'm on his, I have to put him on mine.
Right.
What the heck? And then I went the next day and he had a whole different top 8. And this is how nice he was. You have to have some sort of top 8 or top 4. Like you can't take that off your profile on MySpace. He found a code to have a shuffling top 8 for everyone on his MySpace, so he wouldn't have to pick one person.
Oh,
but I saw that and
how
I'm like,
nice!
I
and
know,
not nice at the same
exactly.
time.
I was like, well, that's how much I wanted to fit in. People, please.
Oh yeah, I totally get that.
So sorry to interrupt. So you talking about MySpace?
Yeah. I think like we are exposed now to like the reality of like how messed up it is that all this stuff has been passed down to us, and like we're able to process it and talk about it as a generation because we now have access to everybody's stories. So that's really beneficial, but at the same time it's difficult because then it's constant. It's like, oh, like if you repair like your stuff with your mom, then like the next day Becky's like talking about all the stuff about her mom on her Instagram that reminds you about yours. And so it's
especially
like a catch-22. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
Literally, like I had a big family thing last week, and the amount of videos that I've had relating to that on my For You page, I'm like,
oh my God. Yeah.
Crazy.
That's a piece of advice that I give to anybody that asks about like how to maintain your mental health online. And it's like the algorithm doesn't know whether or not this information is like helping you or harming you. So like you put out a post about generational trauma, like you better bet your ass you're going to see generational trauma stuff for like months, everywhere. You know?
Yeah, I think I even saw a video that I'm like, that's just so crazy that we've just had exposure to so much just in real time. Too much. I think even from the start, I mean, someone said that they watched the Twin Towers collapse in their like 3rd grade class.
Oh yeah, same.
Like, yeah, I think I was in like 5th grade when that happened or something. And it was just like, that's just crazy that they just put that on TV, you know, for us to process, you know.
I like ate that up too. Watched it in my 2nd grade history class, which was weird in history class. And then I went home and like bought all the newspapers, like cut out all this stuff, made scrapbooks about it. It was like, because like there was no family really knew how to address something like that, how to talk about trauma in general, which is part of why generational trauma continues. But then we're just like, we're these little kids that are exposed to all this media and we're trying to figure it out ourselves. Like, and I just like went crazy, like dived into like the deaths of thousands of people with like little colored like American flag books, like at 11, like trying to figure it out. And I feel like honestly today, that's a lot of what we're seeing in millennials and Gen Z processing generational trauma. But instead of making 9/11 scrapbooks, we're making like Instagram grids and like TikTok videos to try to like just figure out how to survive, knowing everything that we know. We really shouldn't know this much, but now we have to survive. It's complicated.
It's so complicated. And I think just from how many different directions it comes. And I have been guilty of this where I've been so quick to act on a thought process. Like I'll see one video about someone's trauma that they went through, and then I automatically assume that's what actually happened. You know, it's like instead of getting all sides of the story.
It's your unconscious.
Yeah. That we're just 1 out of 20. I'm never going to forget that. Well, maybe I will. Maybe this is
it'll be in there somewhere.
I wonder if that has to do with our dreams too.
Oh yeah.
Oh my, what's your thought on dreams? I don't know. Like, do you think like do you read into like, well, if you're dreaming this is probably something that you should,
Not at all. And like, but I think it can be helpful, like metaphorical, symbolic, like what do you align with, like help you process. But I just like, I don't know.
So the fact that I had a dream last night that I was swimming in a sea of blueberries has nothing to do with my real life.
I mean, you are wearing a shirt that kind of looks like blueberry juice and blueberries.
It is.
So like it obviously affected you today.
My unconscious.
Yeah, it is. It is. It picked it out.
I just think the craziest thing about dreams is that no matter, and I know that Evan says write down your dreams, but I'm like, no, I'm going to remember that. And then an hour later, I'm like, I lost it. You know? But then I also don't remember what I ate yesterday. So
yeah,
I think that's just me. But
it's a trauma.
It's trauma. Put it out.
Yeah, just kidding.
So we were talking a little bit about it, but I think true crime is so interesting. And I don't know I think Gen Z, I'm seeing get more into it. Maybe it is just because we have so much exposure, but especially during quarantine, I think we just consumed so much. I don't know if you're a true crime junkie like me, but I like the Ted Bundy documentaries
Oh
and
yeah.
stuff like that. Is there a connection to like the millennial fascination with true crime, even like Law and Order and fictional stuff? Do you think there's
Yeah.
some sort of connection like with our trauma as to why we're so obsessed with true crime?
Totally. Well, first of all, I'm obsessed with it. Law and Order
Hmm.
SVU,
Hmm.
Olivia Benson, my queen.
Oh my god,
Queen.
love that.
Love it. I'm also, I don't know, I'm starting actually a true crime podcast
Really?
with Billy Jensen, like the
With
like
Billy
true crime.
Jensen.
Yeah. Like,
So I consume the only podcast I ever really consumed until I started doing research for this podcast was My Favorite Murder.
yeah.
And so Billy Jensen has a podcast on Exactly Right, which is Georgia
Hmm.
and Karen's. That is so exciting for
Yeah.
you. That's
And so
amazing.
we've been talking about that, like the
Yeah.
fascination of like serial killers and true crime, and we're shifting it more towards talking about like end of life, like suicidality, because there's
Hmm.
like killers on the outside and killers on the inside.
Wow.
But I think like the fascinating thing with true crime is that like we just want to understand ourselves, and our mind likes to go to extremes. And
Hmm.
so we know that these people are human beings.
Hmm.
And so like we want to understand them. And like they're like extreme, like obviously, you know? And so
Hmm.
like we want to protect ourselves.
Hmm.
And two, like, yeah, we've been exposed to all this stuff that like any moment that our brain can take to try to like tell a story, make sense, or find a solution, like we will do that. And like
Hmm.
true crime is just absolutely fascinating. It's like a roller coaster. Like you might feel like you're gonna die, but then like the rush of like
Yeah,
getting through
exactly.
it.
Exactly. And I don't know, I'm like, is it desensitizing us to like,
Oh, totally.
okay. Because now I'm
Totally.
like, I remember like if I was growing up camping, I would be terrified that like someone was gonna come get me. But now I'm like, whatever, you know. Maybe it's just I'm over it all. But do you ever? I don't know if I'm alone in this. Maybe I shouldn't confess this. We might cut it if you're like, don't talk about that. But I like when I was watching the Ted Bundy documentary, they talk about certain traits that he has in all of this, and I'm like, is that me? You know, or like I
Yeah.
think I've seen it with so many different types of true crime documentaries, or like they were dropped on the head as a child. And I'm
Right.
like, I think I hit my head once as a kid. I'm like, am I gonna be a serial killer?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I've thought about that. I've
Okay.
written like final papers on Ted Bundy in like
Oh,
college
good.
and stuff, like obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, there are certain traits. And like, you know, we all have the capacity to dissociate
Mm-hmm.
from our own reality and from ourselves to save ourselves. And when we are dissociated, impulses come out.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, and people like snap, you know, you just hear about like people snapping all the time. It's totally normal person, normal like lifestyle, suburbia, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, like twists and turns and does something totally
Mm-hmm.
like animalistic or
Yeah.
instinctual, non-human. And like we are all human and we can all get to that place. We just like choose not to.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why we like watching
Yeah. Oh my God.
it.
Just to channel that. That's why I think I enjoy My Favorite Murder. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that podcast at all.
I've listened to a
Yeah,
few.
yeah. So Georgia Karen's an actual comedian, and then Georgia was like did some Food Network stuff, and she's just like a TV personality.
Mhm.
But I think it's so fascinating that they're using humor to kind of help, process the fact of like, first of all, how obsessed they are with true crime, but also the trauma that some people might face with specific,
Yeah.
crime and stuff. And they talked about that they want to expose, specific murders that everyone might not know about, to shed light on the stories of even the smaller
Yeah.
people, and they've had families write into them like, thank you so much for talking about my daughter's death. No one ever talks about it. Everyone just talks about Ted Bundy, because that's
Right.
the easiest one because there's so much information on it to
Yeah.
consume. But even I think there's just all the crime besides like deaths and all that, but like the Jeffrey Epstein documentary or the even Tiger King ended up being a true
Yeah.
crime. Do you know the story behind Tiger King?
I think
How
so.
it was literally just going to be about the zoo that they had.
Oh
And
no.
then and then Joe Exotic, and I'm hopefully I should probably fact check this, but this is what I heard. I read an article
On that
about
one
it. No, I
TikTok.
saw a TikTok. Joe Exotic was just one day goes, yeah, and Carol Baskin killed her husband. And so then the Netflix people who were filming go, maybe we should pivot this. And so that's
Wow.
when the whole feud between like Carol and Joe started being fueled, was like mid filming of the show,
Genius.
which is genius.
Yeah, it's genius. Oh, like, yeah, switch it around.
Yeah.
And look what happened.
Exactly. And
You
now,
can't ignore characters,
and
characters
she
and
was on
natural plot lines.
Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. I want to shift a little bit here.
Yeah.
Because I talk a lot in my content about like the corporate workplace, which I'm not sure if you have a lot. I'm sure most of your clients have corporate jobs, right? And it's just like the American dream, right? We live in a capitalist society and we need money to survive. First, I want to ask a question just because this is some of my, again, you never make a video. I've never made a video on the internet that someone didn't say, oh my God, this is me. What is this anxiety that you hear regularly that you think people might be alone in?
Like any anxiety?
I mean, yeah, like any anxiety, but like maybe a corporate workplace one about coworkers or your boss, but any anxiety too works.
I mean, an anxiety you might be alone in.
Like for me, it's I truly thought I was gonna get fired for doing nothing wrong every single day. I would walk into my workplace and just thinking that I was gonna get fired for just existing, which then I found out most millennials go through. Yeah, no, but then that was my first video I made on the internet. That went viral. Yeah, it was about that. Yeah, I got millions of views because people are like, this is me. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I don't know. I can't think of anything. I feel like, I mean, it's kind of just that. I feel like it is like the anxiety that you just said. And maybe that's why it blows up because that manifests in so many different ways. Like getting fired for doing nothing wrong. It's like, is my PowerPoint not colorful enough? Is my email too short or too long? It's like, and all of those things are like you doing nothing, but like getting fired.
I also have this urge to quit the second I make a mistake because in my head, I already know why I talked to my therapist about it, but it's because I have been disappointed so much in my past life that I have, or not my past life, but like growing up that I feel like I'm going to disappoint others and have this fear of disappointing others. So I think making one mistake is going to cause me to fail at my job. And so then I just like have to quit because that's the last straw rather than like finding a solution to it, which I don't know if that makes sense to you.
No, yeah, that totally makes sense. I mean, honestly, the corporate world, like, okay, certain types of parenting, the educational system, like all of these things prep you for the corporate world. And they just like reinforce, like, be afraid of authority, like do what I say and like nothing that has to do with who you are as a human being. And like, if we give you money or like your basic needs, then like, shut up. Like that's enough. And like, it's not enough. Like it's not enough. And like, we're crumbling internally, like this anxiety is so pervasive and it's like really not our fault. It's not our fault that we feel like we are going to get fired for doing nothing.
It's just these societal norms that also I think it's like a generational divide too, is like Kim Kardashian said it best.
Oh my God.
Get your fucking ass up and work.
No.
That was like, I was like, what? And I'm like, well, this was made for me to use on TikTok everywhere. But
exactly.
People are pretty split on it though, which is kind of crazy. But I think that is a mentality that's been passed down to us is like, you can't, like, burnout happens. So face it.
Yeah.
Which do you have advice for people who might be facing burnout in all parts of life, not just in the corporate space, but I think most of the people listening work a corporate job. So what advice do you have for someone facing, burnout in some part of their life?
I mean, I really think that it starts with coming to terms with the fact that like you're burning out because you don't have the energy or the time to do everything that is being expected of you. Like, and that's not because you don't have enough time and energy. It's because there's too many things for you to do. Like legitimately as a human being, you do not have as much time and energy as you need to complete all these things on your to-do list when you're supposed to also be taking care of yourself. Like it's just natural. And I think that that's like the first thing to recognize. It's like burnout doesn't mean that something's wrong with you. It means that there's something wrong with the structure of what's going on. And that's really important. And we get lost and our mind likes to tell ourselves that like, if we're the cause of the problem, then we can be the cause of the solution. The problem is like when we tell ourselves that we're the cause of the problem and we're not, the solution is never going to come. So my biggest piece of advice is just like, burnout does not imply that there is something wrong with you. Wow. It implies that there's something wrong with the structure. And once you can realize that, then you can realize that the structure is the problem. And then you'll actually find the solution instead of trying to dig for it in yourself and getting more and more upset when you don't find it.
And I think that, wow, I just had a breakthrough. I think for me, I project so much of that on myself. And I'm the kind of person where I don't know if you've heard this or if it's common, but if I get overwhelmed, I shut down. It's kind of there's been jokes around it, but too busy to get any work done, but I can't get any work done because I feel too busy.
Yeah.
that makes
It
sense.
does.
And then that totally goes with like, no, it's the system, like you said.
Yeah.
It's not you, it's the way that things are set up. So it just
Yeah.
takes some restructuring.
I mean, even when you're like, when I like, what did you say? Like when I get too busy or when I get overwhelmed, I like shut down.
Yeah. The idea was when you get, well, I get so overwhelmed that I shut down, but it's when you're too overwhelmed to work, but then you get more overwhelmed because you're not working.
Yeah.
You know, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But like when you said like when I'm too overwhelmed, like I just kind of like stop working. It's like, and I think a lot of people say that in the context of like, it's me. Like I'm the one that does this. Like maybe I'm the only one. And it's like, no, like any system, organic, like human beings or like computers, technological, like if it's too overwhelmed with too much information, it's going to shut down. But that's where like we criticize ourselves like, oh, when I'm overwhelmed, I shut down. Like I can't wait till this stops. And it's like, it's never going to stop because it's your fail safe.
So it's like
protecting you.
When my work computer starts making loud noises because it has too much going on.
Yeah, and then it like stops
overheated.
working.
Like,
yeah. And that's like what we sound like
Exactly.
as humans when we're crying and we're screaming and we don't know what to do and like we are feeling lost. Like we're just a computer on overdrive.
Like you said already, like we are all computers.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Like for real.
I'm having so much realization today. This is amazing. So I think too with the corporate burnout, it's important that employers have found, and I know this is probably not what you were expecting to talk about today, but that they realize that their employees are all different as well. Like no one is cookie cutter. Totally. And I feel like that was the way a lot of companies were set up pre-pandemic. But I think pandemic just caused everyone to look at themselves because they're with themselves all day, alone, figuring out their own self. And that's why, and it's great, but also I've seen it as kind of a catch-22 of there being most therapists have wait lists right now because there's not enough to support the amount of people that are now realizing how much they should prioritize their mental health.
Completely. Yeah. And I like you saying like, I didn't know if we would, if we would talk about this today, because this topic is why I'm so obsessed with you. Like this topic is why, like, it's because like we need to come to that reality. Like I worked for a major treatment center in Malibu for 3.5 years, then owned my own company for 4. So I've been a CEO, I've been an employer. I've had therapists as employees, like just like, entry-level employees. And I've treated them all with respect and compassion and seen them all individual, like their own time schedules, work from home or don't work from home, like no micromanaging, like independence, wear whatever you want, like, and pay you fairly. And I feel like that's really important because we spend the majority of our life working for money so that we can live. So our work environment has to be healthy. It has to recognize individual differences, stereotypes and discrimination, and like the ability to like, we need to not be treated like machines at work because that just fuels our unconscious programming and it makes us burn out and then blame ourselves. And like, it's just, this is literally the cycle of like the American demise.
Oh my God. And that's the nail on the head that I've seen, but have never put into words. It's at the end of the day, everyone's going to fail if no one can succeed. It's like logical, but we're not going to be able to succeed if we don't put ourselves first, which I've had a lot of realizations lately that if I'm not putting myself first, I'm not going to be the best version of myself. And I'm not saying that as like selfishly put myself first, but I'm saying, look at myself first because I have people that I need to look out for, and in my life. And how am I going to be able to look out for them if I don't even know who I am or how to look out for myself?
Right.
Which therapy's been amazing in helping with that.
Yeah. I heard this thing. It's like, it's talking about like capitalism and honestly, there can be conscious capitalism. I think there's aspects of like capitalism that are important, like competition and like innovation, but like we've taken it to greed and like power instead. But there's this saying like, a tree only takes as much water as it needs. And if it actually ends up taking more water than it needs, it will die. And like we're living unnaturally. Like there's certain people that own certain companies that are like literally taking the water, taking the money to make food and give ourselves things to drink so we can survive. And like, it's a cancer.
Like Jeff Bezos
it's a mental
tearing
cancer.
Down that bridge to move his yacht. Did you hear that?
No.
Jeff Bezos was creating like the biggest yacht in the world, of course.
Like, like what?
For what?
Like God.
Yeah. And he is doing it somewhere in the UK, I believe, or in Europe. And he has to tear down an entire bridge, tear down and rebuild an entire bridge to get it out. Yeah.
Like a bridge that people used to live.
And it's not even
like,
the country he lives in. And it's like it's the people like, get out of our country.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's so interesting. I don't know if you knew this. His wife has donated more money in the last year than he's ever donated. His ex-wife, which is just insane.
Yeah.
It's like, so there is good that you can do
Totally.
with capitalism. And, there's people who, unfortunately, we need money to survive, and people know how to do with it, do some pretty great stuff with the money that they get, which is why I love, Jed Foundation, or, the donations that I do on Instagram and all that, is because at the end of the day, it's all about us supporting each other, because not everyone can have the same resources that other people might be able to have.
Yeah. With conscious capitalism, one of the most important things that I've learned and integrated is that most companies just take into consideration shareholders, the people at the top, but we need to be taking into consideration stakeholders, whose lives are at stake with these decisions that we're making.
Wow.
And I think we're seeing that shift now. So we're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
And honestly, the millennial generation is the generation that's initially started this shift. It made sense that we needed to work and pick ourselves up by our bootstraps, blah, 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 back in the day. Okay, sure. But now that we've done that, we've integrated, we've made a society, how about we stop making a society where everybody just wants to kill themselves? What is going on? How is this okay?
And I think that generation, the bootstrap, grassroots or work hard, play hard, they didn't have the technology that we have today, that we get home. Even when I wasn't working from home, I was told to bring my work computer home and finish some stuff at home. They didn't even, they had no ability to do that in the 60s and 70s. So I think we just have too much access to work outside of work.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a fantasy too, that a lot of movies and, celebrities have put on us, that if you aren't working 24/7, you're not going to succeed in life, which is just so BS.
Yeah. Just fucking work.
Yeah. Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
Says, wake your fucking ass up.
Wake your fucking ass up and work,
But
if
whenever
you
you
want to be
want.
like Kim Kardashian.
But also work whenever, but wake up when you want to wake up, and just get a little bit of work done.
Yeah. And Courtney Kardashian's
Yeah.
And it's girl, you spent all last season talking about how you didn't want to work
Yeah,
with your
they got in a
family
fight
anymore.
about it.
Yeah, come on.
I think it's so interesting though, because they, people are like, how are the Kardashians going to stay relevant? I feel like they're more relevant now than ever.
Totally.
Because, the whole even Pete Davidson, Kanye West thing, which kind of has some mental health stuff that he, is going through. It's very public, but we're giving them exactly what they want, and let's just stay relevant. Yeah. Kim said this one thing and it's controversial. It's oh my God, I can't believe she said that.
Yeah.
But then we're talking about it.
I know.
Yeah. There's always, each week there's something different about the Kardashians.
Always
popping up in the news.
They are the American, they're the American family.
Yep. Which is crazy. We didn't really have one of those growing up. I don't feel like
we didn't.
We had Jersey Shore. Yeah,
we did.
Yeah, which I love.
Yes, the
love
Guidos and the
Shore.
Guidettes.
Yes,
yeah,
oh
and Degrassi. We had Degrassi.
Oh, we had Degrassi.
Right.
Which now Euphoria is the new Degrassi.
Oh my God, I love you.
I haven't seen it.
Are you serious?
My therapist even said don't watch it because of my anxiety.
Okay, watch my YouTube reacts, because I process the drug use, the sexuality in it to help people through.
Oh my
it's
God,
a pretty triggering show.
I thought about doing a video where I'm someone with anxiety watching Euphoria for the first time, just live reaction.
Oh, you would just shut it in 2 seconds. You'd be okay, I'm done.
Because I'm the kind of person where if I'm watching a TV show or a movie and I can sense relational conflict coming up, or someone catches someone, stealing or anything like that, I fast forward. I'm I can't watch conflict arise. And I'm I feel like that's the whole show.
It is the whole show.
Based on the TikTok spoilers that I've seen, it's just a lot of people outing each other.
It's incredibly brilliant.
Oh man.
And people are oh, it's not realistic. Oh yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's my life story. Truly, people really live like that. They do those drugs. They are that violent. They are that interpersonally conflictual. People are messed up. And therapists in this country and in the world are sometimes the only ones that realize that,
Oh my
That's
God.
kind of why I come out and I'm the truth is we're all fucked.
Mm-hmm. So make
including
the most of it.
me.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that. Let's show the reality in TV shows like Euphoria, put the emotion into it and accept it as fact. The world is messed up. Most people are not given what they're supposed to be given to be healthy, happy, or free. So let's digest it.
Oh Oh my God.
But like, be careful.
But also
with the anxiety.
dare. Yeah.
Yeah, dare you.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's what everyone's saying. It's like the millennials were taught, dare, and then Gen Z is watching Euphoria. It's like so different.
Yeah.
But I think it's so interesting watching at least the previews for the show, and you look at someone like who's Jacob Elordi, who's literal model and perfect looking human.
Right.
And then me in high school, how I looked is just so different. It's
True.
like, do kids actually look like this? I think one of the main actresses is 27, 28.
Maddie. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But if you got it, work with it. If you can look like a high schooler. So I think, speaking of anxiety, I've been pretty open about it, and it's been kind of cool just to see the people come around me on the internet even.
Yeah.
So encouraging to see a man speak about this, because I feel like a lot of men don't.
Mm-hmm.
I've had quite a few people reach out asking what they can do for their boyfriends, brothers, spouses, dads to pursue some sort of resource with destigmatizing men's mental health as being like the strong, brooding, I can just suck it up and take it, because then you get to points like, I've gone through recently where it comes to a breaking point. What would be your biggest advice to someone, not specifically men, but the people who are around the men, to encourage someone to, take the time to look at the right resource to, take care of themselves?
I think it's really giving space for like emotional processing,
Mhm.
and it doesn't even have to be like direct. It's not like, I feel like I wouldn't go up to my husband and be like, we're going to sit down for 10 minutes like every other day, and like I'm going to ask you to tell me how you're feeling, when like
Yeah.
you're not comfortable with that
Mhm.
shit at all,
Given your career too, I'm sure he would.
Oh my
Yeah,
God,
he's
he'd be
probably
like, no.
Yeah. Oh, does he do that? Like, are there moments in your marriage where he's like, you're being my therapist right now, and
Oh, he's
take a
totally
step
mine,
back?
actually.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I'm
Yeah.
like very messed up.
What does Max do for work?
Oh, nothing. He's
Oh.
a stay-at-home dad.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah, that's
so
really
he's
cool.
tapped into his
Yeah,
emotions.
that's great. Yeah, again, destigmatize,
Yeah, no,
societal norms. I love that.
totally.
That's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's like, I mean, my piece of advice would be for them to give this advice like to the men in their life, is like, in those moments where like you have a break and you're by yourself and you're starting to feel like emotions, like just like let that happen. Like let that happen.
Yeah.
Like just even in private, because I think we ingrain the familial and societal like conditioning of like, don't let it out. Don't even let it in. Like, don't even feel it inward either. And so I think it's like, just give yourself those moments of emotional processing. Like, stop gaslighting yourself. Like that would kind of be what it is. It's like, you weren't born with this belief that you're not allowed to feel. So like, where did it come from? And so for those people, like, just like remind them in any way that they can have emotional processing on their own. And also remind them that you're not going to facilitate this belief any longer in their life. Like, you're not going to like contribute to the suppression of like their human emotion. I don't know. I think it's just a safe space, like relationally, and just reminding them like, you're allowed to feel. Like, and if you can't even tell yourself that, then like me telling you isn't gonna help. So like, just allow yourself, like you're not born without feelings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's the thing that I've seen is people will say, I've tried to get my boyfriend to talk about his feelings or his mental health, but he doesn't want to. I'm like, people in general, the more that they're, forced to do something, causes them to shut down even more. I know I'm that way. And then I just go with, okay, if someone wants me to talk about something this badly, it can kind of, stress me out or cause me to be overwhelmed, which, like we said already, causes me to shut down.
Yeah.
So that's really good. Just like allow yourself to feel and allow them to feel. And then I know that it's really hard, and I've been wanting to ask them this, and this isn't a question I prepared you for, so apologies, but there's been a lot of talk around how expensive therapy is, and all of that. What are some other resources for people who might not have the ability to have therapy even regularly, that they can pursue in order to, get on the right track?
I mean, there are like a lot of community-based resources that like people just aren't aware of. And I honestly think that people like, they assume that like free resources or low income resources or community-based resources are like only made for people that are like really low income or like really marginalized, like literally do not have the resources, but like those are accessible to anybody, you know? Like even like the white middle-aged wife that like whose husband refuses therapy, like you don't have to like wait around and try to like siphon money out of your family account to then go see a therapist one day. Like anybody can utilize those community-based resources. And I also think that now, especially with the millennial age and older, like our access to information online, like people are like, oh, like don't self-diagnose yourself or like whatever. And like, I understand that to a degree. And at the same time, like if you can't identify that you have a problem to begin with, why would you ever go to see somebody that can help you with your problem? Like it's good to get an understanding of like what's really going on within us internally. And so I think online, like reading books is helpful, like truly, and like journaling is helpful. Like a lot of like therapy, anywhere between like 30 to 70% of the success of therapy is just the relationship that you have with the person and your ability to get an objective viewpoint of what's going on within you. So like if you journal and write down your thoughts while you're feeling them, while you're thinking and feeling them, and then step away and come back, in a sense, you have more of an objective viewpoint of like, now I'm not actively feeling this in my body. I'm not actively in this thought process. So like, what do I think and feel right now about what I was thinking and feeling then? So like, you know, you can't be your own therapist if you're like severely traumatized or dissociated or something like that. But like mental health information is readily accessible. And it's just making sure that you don't, you know, take it from the wrong person, which can happen.
Truly can. I feel like the amount of people who, because I openly talk about, you know, my mental health and therapy and how much it's helped me. And it's like, are you ever in a conversation and someone just starts like word vomiting because they know things about you like from the internet or something?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I didn't ask. Like, it was like, not in a mean way, but it's just like, no, I wasn't expecting you to talk about it. There'll be men who are like, my wife watches your TikToks. I'm like, oh, awesome. And then they'll be like, yeah, I've thought about therapy. And it's like, oh, okay. You know? So it's like, it's on top of mind for a lot of people, but that's great to hear there are other resources out there that people can pursue. Okay, so before we finish up here, I have 2 questions for you.
Okay.
And they're kind of in the same realm. Okay. A lot has been coming back from our childhood. You know, talk about Liz McGuire, you know, the flower clip or the butterfly clips, you know, and, you know, the halter tops and all that. What is a trend that you have seen come back in the past like 2 or 3 years that you're like pumped to see like back on the scene?
I think like punk, just like punk rock, like in general, like Avril Lavigne kind
emo
of thing.
Girl. Yeah. Which
like
her new album is so good.
I haven't heard it yet.
It's literally her. Like I feel like a lot of artists, you know, they keep up with, you know, the trends of music and all that, but it is just Avril Lavigne. And
good.
It is so, because she saw that. I think she saw that pop punk was making a return. She's like, my time to shine.
I think that's totally what it is. And like, honestly, like the emo generation came from the millennials. And like, what does that mean even? It means emotion. It means emotive. It means like we were processing and feeling and we didn't know what the hell to do with it. So we went dark instead because we literally weren't allowed to bring this into the light. It became like a bad thing, like a controversial thing, a sideline thing. And so I'm down for it. I'm like emo at my core. Like,
were you
definitely
an emo girl in
going,
high school?
oh my God.
Yeah, okay.
Paramore, Hayley Williams, the orange hair with the blonde tips.
So,
like,
did you see this?
I saw it.
Did you know the story behind
No.
it? Okay, so Hayley Williams has a hair dye line.
Yes. Good Dye, right?
Good Dye.
Yeah.
They sent me their product. And so I dye my hair on my own occasionally, you know, and it's not like a crisis thing. Everyone, I don't know if you see that on the internet. It's like, oh, you dyed your hair. Are you okay? It's like, yeah, I
had to say that my new hair color wasn't a trauma response.
Yeah, jeez.
Because I was like, I hate my parents. And then the next day my hair was blonde.
I'm like, wait, but what? So I've done it myself. My friend sent me a really good at-home kit and I buzz my hair. So like silver is easy to do. And I think I saw it. I've never seen the new Gossip Girl, but I saw a promo for it. And one of the guys had like a tint of blue in his hair.
Yes.
And I'm like, and of course, in my head, I'm like, I'm going to look like that, which I probably wouldn't anyways, but because he's literally a model. But I got this hair dye from Hayley Williams brand. And so it said, leave it in for 30 minutes. So of course, I'm like, I'll leave it in for 5 and it'll be the tint. And it wasn't a tint. It was literally like teal blue when I took it off. And I've been slowly, you know, washing it every day. All that to say, I totally feel the Paramore vibes. Do you remember what song died on your MySpace?
I mean, I had like, I had Snoop Dogg Drop It Like It's Hot.
Oh, so you weren't like an emo MySpace girl.
No, and then like Ashley Simpson Pieces of Me, like back and forth.
Oh, okay.
Like those were like the
Switch
two.
it up.
And then of course, there's like that 30 Seconds to Mars and like the Taking Back Sunday
Cartel.
and like Cartel,
Yeah.
Bright Eyes, like all
Boys
that.
Like Girls. Oh,
Yeah.
so good. Mine was remember Red Jumpsuit Apparatus?
Oh yeah. Oh my God, the one song.
Face Down.
Yes.
That was literally
That
about
song.
like domestic violence. And then
Yeah.
I'm like in my feels and like my sophomore year of high school singing about, I'm like looking back, I'm like, I should have never put that on my MySpace.
The thing is though, like those things were totally relevant because, I haven't actually shared this before, but like I was obsessed with that song because even he's my husband now, but like me and my high school boyfriend, now husband, were so physically violent towards one another in high school. Like we would get blacked out drunk, like do a bunch of methamphetamine and then like beat each other up. So we were like obsessed with that song. So we were like hardcore emo, like black nail polish, let's attack each other and do a bunch of drugs. Like we were full on emo. So like for me, I'm glad that like the vibe is coming back, but like now I'm pulled out and like we don't attack each other anymore.
It's just cool. It's not like an emotional
like,
response.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember it was always like at my high school, at least, the emo girl versus the preppy Hollister girl.
Yeah.
It was like the Janice Ians versus the Regina Georges.
Completely.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. But now everyone wants to be a Janice.
Yeah, I
know.
know.
No one wants to be Regina George.
I know.
So interesting. Okay. So I love that emo trends coming back. Machine Gun Kelly just wrote a song about emo girls, which of course he.
Right. Well, I heard that from North.
Yeah.
On TikTok.
Yep.
Singing it.
Oh yeah.
North.
So you are launching a podcast, or you already have your podcast? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have the Truth Doctor show, but I'm rebranding it as Human First, launching on April 20th.
Okay. And then you're one with
with Billy Jensen. It's called It's a Dark Ride. It'll come out in May.
Okay.
We're interviewing people like Amanda Knox, Moby, people like that, all about like mental health and suicide. Yeah.
Amazing. Wow. That's so exciting. Okay. And then you're the Truth Doctor, right?
The Truth Doctor.
On all platforms?
On all platforms, yeah. And then my book, Your Unconscious, is showing. Get ready.
When is that?
It's going to blow your mind. Sometime end of next year, I think.
Okay. Wow. Lots of exciting stuff going on. Can't wait to see it all happen. Well, if there's anything that you want to ask Dr. Courtney, please feel free to slide in her DMs or comment on her TikTok.
Yeah.
You're pretty active on TikTok as well. Yeah. And if there's anything you think we missed today, please feel free to comment below, like and subscribe. Would love to have you back.
Would love it.
So let us know what else we should talk about the next time that Dr. Courtney comes back on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Millennial Made, and we will see you next week.
See you then.